This is Danielle Sanders with the Chicago Defender exclusive. Today I'm talking to one of the Roscetti Four, Omar Muhammad, formerly known as Omar Saunders. Omar was just 18 years old when he was convicted of the 1986 kidnapping, rape, and murder of then Rush medical student Lori Rossetti. He and his three friends were convicted and given life in prison. After declaring their innocence, DNA evidence cleared them of any involvement, and then Governor George Ryan gave them a full pardon and expunged their records. State's Attorney candidate Pat O'Brien was one of the prosecutors on their case. With the upcoming election, the men known as the Roscetti Four are vehemently opposed to him as state's attorney, believing that he knowingly sent innocent men to prison. Today we're talking to one of them, Omar Muhammad. So, can you give me just a little overview for those that aren't familiar, of the Rossetti case?
It was a case back in 1986. Lori Rossetti was a medical student over at the Rush Presbyterian St. Luke College over there hospital, and she was actually from Springfield, and she's 23 years old, introvert, attractive young student, and she was on her way home after studying late night at the college, and she made it home to the back of her apartment complex, and she was abducted by Eddie Harris and Dwayne Roach, and she was taken to isolated embankment on 15th and Loomis into our community that separated. It's really the Pilsen and the village, the Albla home, and she was taken there. She was raped. She was robbed, and she was left for dead. She was beaten to death by Eddie Harris and Dwayne Roach. They couldn't solve the case. They couldn't solve it. It took 3 months, but in the early parts of the investigation, October '86, at the end part, they discovered that she had been raped, and semen was recovered from the vaginal area, and they had a vaginal swab, and they tested this vaginal swab, and they determined that whoever did this crime, that person was H activity. H activity is synonymous to the blood type O secretor, and that's what they had. So they were excluding people for 3 months based off of the blood type that they had found in Miss
So,
Rossetti.
how did you and your friends, how did you guys even become suspects?
Well, it really wasn't that we were actually suspects. They couldn't solve it. So what happened was they ended up contacting a FBI profiler. His name was Robert Ressler. They had a detective who was actually striving to be a FBI agent. His name was Tom Cronin. And Tom Cronin, he was a friendship with Robert Ressler at Quantico, Virginia. And since he knew this famous profiler, he passed on the Rossetti case to this guy. This guy created a profile, and he documented this profile in his book entitled "Whoever Fight Monsters." And in his book, he said he told them before we were ever arrested that this was the crime of opportunity, and that whoever did this, it had to be between 3 and 6 people, ranging from 14 to 20, and that look for African American youth, male blacks, who may have been arrested prior in their lives for crimes, uh, like what happened with Miss Rossetti, and that it was somebody from our community that did it, the Albert. So the police took that profile and they compiled a list of 92 suspects in our community, and they began to pick from that list who fit the profile, you
Um,
know, and they chose us. The blood
and you
type,
guys were all teenagers at the time, correct?
we were all teenagers. In fact, Kelvin Hollins, he was actually 13.
And what was that process like, just being accused of such a horrific crime at such a young age?
It was a travesty, Danielle, because I had been in trouble. All of us had been in trouble before, except Kelvin. Kelvin never had a background. He was never arrested for anything. Never been in trouble in his life. However, me, Bradford, and Larry, we had been in juvenile detentions before for me, for example, I was always stealing and stuff like that and burglarizing. So I was sent to juveniles as a teenager for that. Larry had been accused when he was a youth of a battery with some other youth, where another youth, had been hit with a stick and stuff. And Bradford had also been arrested for robberies when he was with older kids, older children. But he was in. So we had backgrounds, and uh, but being charged with a murder for something you didn't do, it was traumatic. So,
Hmm.
but it was a travesty to us, because let's imagine being accused of committing a crime with a kid you never seen before. The
Right.
first time you meet this kid is standing in the courtroom, and you can imagine the trauma and the shock, to actually see that I'm being accused of committing a crime with two guys I know and one I never met before.
Well, as they're developing their case and against you guys, and you guys are being interrogated, what was that process like? The
Uh,
interrogation process.
you have to remember that they're fabricating the case in the door. They already know that we not the guys. So when I came in, they never questioned me in the sense of, did you do this? They was presenting me with something they wanted me to say. They actually brought me like a typed up statement that they say Bradford had said. And when I read it, because I was literate, when I read it, I'm like, he couldn't have told you this, because I wasn't with him doing nothing like this. I wasn't even on the west side of Chicago in October. So this can't be true. I came in, the cops was trying to tell me, look, he said this about you, but we know he's lying, and he's not your friend like you think he is. This guy did it. And then they showed me the confession that signed up that his signature was on. This is, we know he did it. We just don't know who this guy is right here. We know that you guys used to break into freight cars. I mean, you were there that night. You just don't remember. Trying to put a statement in my head and that you just say you saw this, that you saw these four guys and one of them you couldn't identify. And I told them I'm not going to do that. I'm not doing that. They brought in Susan Sussman, and next thing I know, she was telling me, to save yourself. You wouldn't think that was in on what was going on, but she was in on it, because she actually, when I called myself telling her what the police were telling me to do to the other three guys, she told me, cut the bullshit and save you. Her exact words, cut the bullshit and save yourself. I'm like, wow,
Wow.
that's exactly how I felt. Like, wow, let me not say nothing else, because this is already set up. From now that I look back on it, they had already had their mind made up. So
So the evidence that actually eventually cleared you guys was presented from the very beginning and never tested?
it was the evidence that cleared us. They actually tested it, and that's why I sent you the laboratory report, because that laboratory report, I actually sent you a whole conglomeration of papers. I sent you the laboratory report, and I actually sent you the actual request that
Right.
Patrick Ryan and George Velsich were asking for test results that are listed inside of the laboratory report. So
Hmm.
there's proof that these two attorneys, they were requesting our standard back in '87 of May and June. She completed those tests October 20th, 1987, and turned this stuff over to these guys. So you requested our secretor statuses early '87. You get it middle '87. You get it at the end of '87, and we go to trial '88. So you had 4 months to decide, hey, these kids didn't do this. We can stop this. Instead of doing that, they use those 4 months to come up with another scheme to include us into the scheme instead of
Mm.
exactly.
Just to be clear, Pat O'Brien and this other attorney were the prosecuting attorneys in this case at the time. So they had this evidence that basically none of you guys matched, that would have proven that you were not there or had not committed this crime. They had that before even going to trial, correct?
They had that before going to trial. And what start in this is that even today you hear Patrick O'Brien. I've been watching him. He sat before three editorial boards, And see, if you don't have these documents, he can run circles around you because he know that you don't know what to ask him if you don't have the document. So as I was listening to him, because I live the experience and I know exactly how he lied on all four of us, I noticed he stays away. He keeps running back to, you had two signed confessions,
Right.
third party statements. One of the guys testified. That's his mantra all the way through. But when I can share this with you, if you had known that all four of these uh, men were non-secretors, would you have prosecuted? He said, no, I wouldn't have did that. I wouldn't have prosecuted. And I'm saying, wow,
You
we got
knew.
you got the laboratory report. And not only that, we actually have the state's attorney's request for the testing of all four of us in 87. In fact, they went and tested Kelvin and Larry, who are first cousins, twice because they got the
Hmm.
case from Susan Sussman of Felony Review, who approved of it at the police station. Those attorneys and the police are the original fabricators of the confession. And pointedly, I wrote a book. My book is called "The Kids Who Cried Wolf." It was a response to Peter Carl's fiction book that was trying to
His book.
put. Isn't it something that I boldly put all their names in this book? I accused them of what no one is saying. No lawyer would say it, no attorney would say it, but I said it. I said this wasn't just no Patrick O'Brien framing us in George Velsich, because once it's understood that Patrick O'Brien had this laboratory report, all of the private attorneys that Christy Burkos appointed to the case had this laboratory report. The only way we can go to the prison, be found guilty, Danielle, is if the lawyers stand down.
Mm.
How can you have this report and you know that the theory is that the Roscetti Four raped Lori and we left the scene?
Right.
And you have this report and you know that the blood type of the semen is an O secretor and none of us are that, and you as our attorney allow that type of prosecution to take place and you never raised for once. Wait a minute. Y'all theory is these kids did it, but the semen don't match none of them. And you
Right.
you talk three separate trials and three attorneys that's appointed to all of us didn't catch this. I, I'm boldly standing on the fact that, and like I told Tom Allen, who was my attorney, he's an alderman, he became a judge. But I said I put all their name in the book, and I dared any of them and their family members to sue me. I
Hmm.
want to open this case, and a whole year has went past, Danielle, and you know that the statute of limitation on libel and slander is a year.
Hmm.
No one has, no one has came out to challenge the book.
Let me go back just a little bit.
Take your time.
So you guys are going, you go through trial,
Right.
professing your innocence the entire time,
All the way through.
separate trials, and then you get a conviction, found guilty,
Yep.
sentenced to life in prison as a teenager.
Yeah.
Is going through your head when you know I did not do this? I'm being accused of something heinous, and now I'm going to prison,
Yeah.
ideally for the rest of your life. What from the moment you were convicted and sentenced to the moment they walked you into your cell, what was that like as a teenager?
It was it was it was it was unbelievable. It was really unbelievable. You know, but you was forced to believe it because you kept feeling the bars. You would feel the bars, and it's like a bad dream. You just can't wake up out of. You want to wake up, but you can't wake up out of. And initially, when I got to Joliet, I got down to Joliet. I considered suicide. I really contemplated killing myself in the Tombs prison down in Joliet. But when God got something for your life, it just can't happen. I remember when I was thinking about killing myself. The moment I was thinking it, I actually heard a voice in my mind saying, "You better not do that," and it
Mm.
left quick as it came. The thought flashed through my mind: if I killed myself, maybe people would feel sorry that they didn't support us because they lied on us so well. As a man, when I look back on it now, they lied on us so well and so completely that I can understand why the Black community and every community looked at us crazy. I get it.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
understand. That's how
And
powerful the lie.
that to me, especially at such a young age, is so much trauma. Not
Yeah.
only going through that experience, but then being in prison. The whole prison experience in itself um, is very traumatic. And you guys are dealing with this day to day for 14 years, literally through young adulthood. What was it for you that made you just hold on to the fact that the truth is eventually going to come out?
It was real simple for me. Truth. The truth of the circumstance wouldn't let me accept it. I couldn't accept it. I couldn't accept it. I would have inmates over the course of my 14 years say, "Man, you don't act like a brother that got natural life." And I would tell them as the years went on, man, it's because I know I ain't supposed to be here. Yeah.
Now, what was the moment where things started to get a little more hopeful, where you actually thought, you know what? Did someone else, were your attorneys the entire time you were incarcerated, or did you get a new set of attorneys that started to process this and say, let's reopen this matter and get this evidence?
No, all of our trial attorneys left, and because we were poor and indigent. We assigned appellate attorneys from the public appellate defender's office. Uh, Eventually, all our cases will be affirmed, and me and Larry, Larry was the one that you remember we had separate trials. Fortunately, me and Larry would be in Menard, and Larry had always been sending me Pam Fisher's testimony, telling me that, man, oh, you need to read this. Uh, but I wouldn't read it because at my trial, they had lied so thoroughly and made me believe that the stuff came from Larry, Kelvin, and Bradford. I didn't even want to hear it. And
Mm.
we was on the yard one day, and he was telling me, man, for short for Omar. He was like, man, we got to put something back in court, man. We got to do something. I said, I done tried everything. They shooting it all down. He said, I'm telling you, it's the semen, man. And I was angry, and I told him, man, it ain't the semen. At my trial, that woman said all that stuff came from y'all, man. And he was like, what? No, at my trial, she said, I'm an O non-secretor. Whoever did this, O was an O secretor. And that was my first time ever hearing that discussion. I was like, what? What you mean it's
Wow.
secretor? And he broke it down to me. And for the first time, I had him send me his transcript again, and I read it. And when I read
Mhm.
it, we was in Menard. I was up on 9 gallery. I think Larry was on 5. And I screamed out after I read it. I called out to him because it was real loud. I said, Larry, Larry. He's like, what's up? I said, man, you ready to go home? And he heard it. In prison, if you scream that out, that's a sign that you don't went crazy. If other
Oh,
inmates he screaming out, you fit to go home and everybody know who you is. So when I screamed that out, I was getting guys that knew me, man, oh, you all right up there? I'm like, yeah, I'm all right, yeah, what's going on? And that was in 97. And we ended up filing a post-conviction petition and all this happened. Yeah.
so the moment you find out that you are going home
Yeah.
and that your innocence has finally been proven after 14 years, you and your friends are going home. What is that moment like for not just you, but for your families?
So when we came home, I spoke to the media and said, we want to see our families because we know that this harmed our families as well. So it was a real big moment for me because I had 2 daughters that I knew that I had fathered. But when we came home, it was a surreal moment because we were vindicated and we didn't have to tell anyone. The cameras and the media told everybody, and it was just
Right.
it was surreal.
Yeah.
It was like in a dream. You know.
Yeah. Can you talk about Pat O'Brien's role uh, in your case and why you feel so strongly and vehemently opposed to him as state's attorney? What was
Uh,
his role in the Roscetti Four case?
Patrick O'Brien was the lead prosecutor in the case, and George Velchers was his assistant. His role was the prosecutor fair case. Patrick O'Brien initially discovered that this case was not fair. He discovered from the laboratory report that the two confessions that came from the felony review in the police department were false. He also discovered, because of the laboratory report, that the third party confessions were false. And he also discovered from the laboratory report that what Bradford was testifying to was false, which reveals that Patrick O'Brien knowingly put Bradford on the stand and coached him up, just like Bradford said he did, to
Mhm.
testify against Larry. So O'Brien's role in this case was he facilitated the conspiracy that initiated in the police department. He completed it. He took the football and he scored a touchdown. That's the role that Patrick O'Brien and George Vilsa's played in this case.
And he has been challenged with this from various media outlets. Him, some of his supporters, and one of the things, like you said, that he has said repeatedly is that he was just doing his job. With the information that was presented to him, his supporters have said, your case is water under the bridge, and we need to be focusing forward. However, during this campaign, he has repeatedly attacked Kim Foxx for her handling of the Jussie Smollett case. But when we're talking about the wrongful incarceration of Black men in particular, quite frankly, um, 14 years of your life, 14 years of your friend's life that you cannot get back, and you've been proven innocent. Has there ever been a moment where his office has ever reached out and apologized?
Never. Patrick O'Brien has never apologized. He has the same position now because I'm a victim of his that he had then. He assumes that he's so smart as a prosecutor that he can use those skills to deceive the people today, like he deceived juries and the media back then. And that's what I see he's doing in front of the camera. He's not running for that office because he believes in integrity at all, because he's lying in the present. Integrity requires honesty. If you sit in front of editorial boards when asked about the Roscetti case and your involvement in it, and you say, I don't know how I could have did anything else, but you never alert that those editorial boards to the laboratory report that you had, that you knew. I mean, when I sent it to you, I underlined it purposely so you can actually see it. So
Yeah.
that as a lay person, you don't need a serologist to tell you that this say that Omar, Larry, Kelvin, and Bradford are non-secretors. It
Right.
don't take a scholar, a scientist to see this. What O'Brien is doing in front of the media is he's playing on the natural distress and emotions of people in the country with regard to the pandemic and the social upheaval that's
Mhm.
caused by police killing Black men. So yeah, people are upset. But I don't think we should be so blinded and allow him to ride on that natural anger and slide in the office when he don't believe in the principles of the office. He's using
Mhm.
that the natural anger to try to slide in the office. And I'm hoping that the Roscetti case can show light that this man has no integrity. In fact, he's running on a platform of integrity. Integrity requires that he tell the truth, and he's not told that truth yet.
But what is your life like now, post exoneration? How are
Yeah,
you doing?
Me for myself. I moved to Rockford in 2004. Uh, I'm doing great. Me and my family. I have a big family now. I have my wife. I got everything I always dreamed of, which is my wife and my family. So I got six babies. Uh, I took the money and bought me some property. I actually bought a building over here on the west side of Rockford where I teach civics to our community because I believe if you can teach us civics, we can change where we live. So that's what I'm doing. I have a lot of fun teaching our people civics so we can get on the playing field and begin to win. But like me, before I went to prison, I had no knowledge of civics. It was only when I got to prison and I started to learn civics, I began to see how things operate politically when it come to us. So that's what I do. I'm an advocate for civics and mentoring the youth.
You working with her office or anyone in particular on helping others who have been wrongfully convicted?
Not now, not at the present. I'm not, but it would be something I would be considering to do in the future with Miss Fox because when I became aware of Miss Fox, it was only because this guy O'Brien was mentioning running against her. So I know the politics of Cook County. I know how dangerous them politics is up there when I look back at Harold Washington. So I knew then that Kim Foxx is interfering with what we in prison call the North Gate. The North Gate is Cook County's door to the prison industrial complex. And the state's attorney office is the door to that complex. So when I seen Kim Foxx, I knew then she done upset some people way more powerful than the people we're looking at.
So just based on your experiences, particularly, what do you think is important for African Americans, Black people in Illinois to know about the two differences between the candidates?
I think it's important that our people know that Kim Foxx actually represents real integrity, and her tenure in her first term is proof of that. His conduct right now proves why he's not worthy to be in office. I say the stark differences is that he's an open liar, and Kim Foxx openly tells the truth. Openly.
What else do you want people to know about this case and how it relates to this year's election? What is the message that you want to get out to the people?
I would like to get out to the community, the people of Cook County. If you remember when we came home, most people when they come out of prison, they don't sound like me and Larry did. When we came home, we said black, brown, red, yellow, and white people. We didn't come home and bash the system because we understood that the system does not harm people. It's people who work the system, like Patrick O'Brien. When you say the criminal justice system, you're talking about the police department, felony review state's attorney, defense counsels, the judge. That's what you call the criminal justice system. So the system isn't broken. It's people like Patrick O'Brien who get in that system and they use it in a corrupt manner. So I would want the community to understand that we should never go to sleep. We should always be vigilant when we remember what we done went through in the past with John Burge. As far as O'Brien's people saying water under the bridge, I looked at the term. The term water under the bridge refers to those situations and incidents that are no longer relevant, that had no importance. To say that the Roscetti case is water under the bridge, meaning it's irrelevant, it has no importance, it's not important no more. No, our case is very important because no one has been held accountable for what happened in this case. You can call a special prosecutor in the Smollett case, and no one is called a special prosecutor to look at what happened in our case when there's evidence that a conspiracy of mass proportion took place with a judge, defense counsel, prosecutors, and police, and nobody's touched it. Well, I wrote a book about it, and no one's challenged it. No one said I'm.
And I find it's not, quite frankly, it's not just a miscarriage of justice to the four of you, but also to the family of Lori Roscetti, who for 14 years had this murderer, the people who actually killed, raped, and kidnapped their child, was free. So to me, it's a miscarriage of justice for you all and for them and their family as well.
That's a beautiful observation, Danielle. It's true. And I apologize because normally when I open up in my discussion, I always give weight to Lori because, what happened to her, I was talking to my attorney, Scott Kamen, yesterday, and I had never seen the pictures. I've never seen the death pictures of Lori. I've never seen them. And I told him, he said, you never seen them? I said, I've never seen them. I didn't even see them in trial. He said, man, they're horrible. And he told me, he started describing them. So when he described it to me, it had an effect on me as if I've seen them years ago.
Right.
I'm like, my God. So when I think about it, you're right, Danielle, that it was a miscarriage of justice to Lori too, what O'Brien did, because knowingly sending us to prison, he allowed the real killers to roam the streets for 14 years. Right. And we can't say how many unknown women these guys have raped and maybe killed and got away with.
I can't thank you enough for sitting down and talking with me.
Thank you, Tony. I appreciate it.